guys. So yeah, it's been a long time. About forgot how to set up a tent. So I decided today that I would do that video that I promised a long time ago. At the urging of a very sarcastic Texan friend of mine, I decided that today was the day. So I got all my stuff out, I set my tents up, and what I was going to do is just a short video on what I started with versus what I have now. Now, of course, I did not do the whole trail. I got between 600 and 700 miles. I am planning on going back out in April and hopefully getting it finished. It's just with the infusions and all of that and the injuries, it's always, it just makes it much more complicated for me. But I still plan on doing it. I have changed out my gear a little bit, so I'm just going to show you what I have and why I have it. So I'm just going to concentrate on the big three today. If you start getting into clothes and electronics and all of this, that's a whole nother video. So we're just doing the big three today, which is your tent, your sleep system, and the pack. And I will show you, what I started with and what I had ended up with so far. So for those of you who have followed me from the beginning, you have seen this little tent many times. This is my little Big Agnes Tiger Wall. It's still lightweight and it has plenty of room. This is the 2-person inside. Now I don't have my thermarest in here. I did start out with a thermarest, but that was just, I'll go into that. But anyway, this is the inside. It's got nice little storage areas and it's got plenty of room all in all. A good little tent and a great starter tent. So this is where I'm at now. This is the Durston X-Mid 2 Pro. This is a Dyneema tent, and it is, as you can see, a Taj Mahal. It's huge. So this is what I'm going with now, and it's definitely a wonderful tent. But I'm going to go into the pros and cons of each. So let's start with Big Agnes. A little Tiger Wall. It's a UL2. It's a solution dye, which is supposed to help it, not fade over time. I have found it to be super easy to set up. That is the first thing. I was very intimidated with a trekking pole tent when I first started, and this is a semi-freestanding tent. It is color-coded to help you with setup, so it is really pretty much, dare I say, idiot-proof, which was especially good for me first starting out. Trail weight is like 2 pounds 3 ounces on it. So another thing I like about the Big Agnes is it is easy to fit just about anywhere. You can put it in a lot of places that you're not going to be able to put a larger footprint tent such as the Durston. And even though it is the Tiger Wall is a 2-man tent, and I really would think it's more comfortable for one person and all their gear. But it's got plenty of space and it's got plenty of head space. I can sit up comfortably. I'm not worried about hitting my head or anything like that. So another thing about the Tiger Wall is the price point. Now, it's not inexpensive by any means. The Tiger Wall UL2 solution dye tent, about 450 bucks. I did get mine a little cheaper through REI when they had a sale, but still, it's not cheap by any means. But it is less expensive than, say, a Dyneema tent. That is another selling point for this little tent. Okay, so some of the things I don't like about it. One, it's not Dyneema. When it gets wet, it gets heavier. I distinctly remember coming off a max patch with a thunderstorm looming and trying to get to the next campsite and get set up before the rain came. And I mean, it was getting ready to, the bottom was gonna fall out. So I got to this nice campsite. Of course, the shelter was very small and it was already taken. So I very quickly got my tent set up and just got in it before the bottom fell out. So as anybody knows, when you have to pack up wet gear, it is no fun. It rained hard. I mean, it poured, and to the point where, you know, there was water underneath the tent. I stayed dry, which was great, and I was very thankful, and because it just was not a given at the time. I was a little nervous about it. So the next morning anyway, packing it up, everything was soaked. And not only that, I had set up in a you know, really nice little level spot, which was nice black earth, and the whole tent, from where the rain had spattered up, had spattered mud all over the tent. And so it's a white tent, white and orange. It was just black. It was just disgusting. Thankfully, we only had a day's hike with that, and I could actually, you know, dry it out, wash it off, because it was disgusting. So that's another thing. Not only was it heavier, I could definitely feel the weight in the pack. Being that it was a white tent, and all that mud just coated it, and it stained it. So it was, it took some serious cleaning to get that cleaned off. We got into town, and I literally had to hang it up and just hose it off, and then let it dry for the whole day. So the next thing is the weight. The longer I was out there, the braver I got, and I was like, yeah, you know, whatever, trekking pole tent, not a big deal anymore, because, you know, you figure stuff out when you're out there. You figure stuff out. Stuff breaks, you fix it, you figure it out, you rig it, whatever you have to do. So I just started thinking about, well, I don't want to carry the extra weight of a frame for a tent if I don't have to. You know, I'm already carrying my trekking poles. I'm not going to be without the trekking poles, so you know, why not ditch the frame and then just have the trekking poles and my stakes. So that's what I did, essentially. Now, let's move on to the Durston. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I love this tent. One thing I like about the Durston, besides, you know, all the room it has, is that it's Dyneema. So water just rolls right off of it. I haven't had any problems with it leaking, none of that. I've been rained on, you know, more than once. Not only is it light, it's I think 20 ounces, it's just easy to dry off. A lot of times in the morning, if we've had a lot of rain the night before, in the morning I will just, you know, while I'm fixing breakfast or whatever, or, you know, picking up things, it'll be dry by the time I'm actually ready to put it in my pack. So yeah, Dyneema is definitely the way to go, and it's tough. It feels, you know, when you feel it, it feels so flimsy, and it really just doesn't feel like it would hold up, but it does. And, you know, another thing with this particular tent is you do not have to have a footprint with it. Now, I chose to bring Tyvek just because I want to protect it as much as I can, but you don't necessarily have to do that. I love the vents that it has up at the top. It has pockets inside. It's great. It's huge inside. So much room. I can put all my stuff. I can put my pack inside if I choose. A lot of times I did that just to protect it. So with that size comes other issues. It has kind of a different footprint. It is almost it's a diagonal type of footprint. It's unusual. That makes it take up a lot of space, and I did have some issues with finding a spot that would accommodate such a large footprint tent. One particular instance was actually the last night I was in the Shenandoah, and I had done a 20-mile day, came into the campsite. We had a typhoon coming in. I didn't get to camp until 8:30. It was pitch black. The wind was up. It was getting ready to pour, and and everything. The shelter was full. All the sites were full. So I ended up having to set up on just a regular foot pad, or a regular tent pad. That would have been fine for the Big Agnes, but for the Durston, It just was way too small. And I was sweating bullets because I had to rig it all kinds of ways because I knew it was going to pour. I knew the wind was going to be up, and I was really afraid that I was going to end up getting soaked inside. So I had to do a lot of rigging, and it took me a long time to get it set up to where it would work. And it was way hanging over, you know, the wood and everything that they had outlining the tent pad. In the long run, it worked, but it was a little bit difficult. Another thing that I found about the Durston is it's a little more fiddly. Now, I'm still kind of new at setting up a trekking pole tent, and I think that the Durston is probably a little more fiddly than some. Now, I haven't tried the Z-Packs tent before, but I know a lot of people that have the Z-Packs, and I think the Durston's probably a little more fiddly as far as getting a nice taut pitch. Now, I'm still working on that. I still haven't, you know, gotten that to the expertise level, but I feel like by the time I finish the trail, I probably will know everything there is to know about it. That being said, it's not that big of an issue. You know, just takes a little bit more finessing it in order to get the perfect pitch. Now, one thing I did have happen is when I first got it, one of the ends came untied, and so I was out on trail and trying to do it really quickly and kind of tied it back, but didn't tie it back quite correctly. I tried, but it wasn't something that I could necessarily Google while I was out there, so I was kind of using the other ends as kind of a model for retying it. Anyway, I didn't tie it right, so it worked, but it pulls a little wonky, so that is something I'm going to fix before I go back out. Okay, sleep systems next. Gosh, I could do a whole video just on the tents. But anyway, sleep systems. I started out with a Thermarest Neo Air X-Therm, and unfortunately I did not get the wide. I wish I had done that, but it has a R rating of 6.9. I am coldophobia, and I do tend to get cold very easily, so I am super worried about being cold all the time. X-Therm didn't feel the bottom, didn't feel the ground at all. In that aspect, it's awesome. Is it loud? Yeah. That's how I got my first trail name. Gooch Gap Shelter. First time I slept in a shelter, I got the nickname Ruffles because of my sleep pad. That was a trail name that I rejected. Anyway, so yeah, it's noisy. So I didn't stay in the shelters with that particular sleeping pad anymore. I just set up wherever, you know, even if it was not ideal. I just didn't want to disturb everybody all night long. So other than that, it was comfortable. I did feel like I was gonna roll off of it constantly. So yeah, I tended to keep it deflated just a little bit so that I didn't feel like it was so tall, if that makes sense. But it was still comfortable and it was warm. I now have a Nemo sleeping pad. The R value is a little lower. I think it's around 5. I'd have to check to be sure, but it is, I think it's probably going to be warm enough. We're going to find out come spring. It's still going to be cold up in the mountains, so and I'm sure I'm gonna, you know, I've slept in it on some cold nights and have been fine with it so far, but I haven't slept in it on a 20-degree night. It is supposed to drop down into the 20s tonight. I think I'm probably going to try it out with my new sleeping bag. I had the Enlightened equipment. Which one did I have? Conundrum. Yes, Conundrum. And which means it has an enclosed foot box. It's an 850 fill, 0-degree bag. I don't know that I'm a quilt person. Now, it has its place. I do love it, but again, I'm cold-natured, and I always seem to have trouble even with, you know, strapping it to the pad and, you know, pulling the strings tight and all the things. Still had trouble up here feeling cold and had air. If I turned over or anything, then my back was getting cold. So I have opted to try for a regular sleeping bag again, like I used to have years and years ago. So that's what I'm going with now. So the sleeping bag I got was the Nemo Philo. It's a 15-degree bag, so yeah, we're gonna give it a try. Anyway, so pack. I didn't change my pack. I still have my Hyperlight mountain gear. Yeah, it's Dyneema. It's light. The pros about the Dyneema, even though I always have a liner in it, I've been caught in some major rain and not had any problems with it getting wet. Sometimes it will get wet on the bottom, you know, from sitting in camp and all the things, but my stuff has stayed dry inside, even though, you know, I had a liner, but I mean, nothing got wet. Even the stuff that I had in dry bags outside, nothing got wet. So yeah, I really like that a lot about it. That is one good thing about this bag. Honestly, I don't have any problems with it, except, you know, it would be nice if it had load lifters. You have to give and take. If you're gonna go with an ultralight bag, there's gonna be some things you're gonna have to give up. I found for myself that if I went over 25 pounds, which I normally do coming out of town with a bag full of you know, food for 4 or 5 days, if I exceeded 25 pounds, it just wasn't comfortable. It wasn't comfortable on my shoulders. I had it like cranked up on my waist, and no matter what adjusting I did, it just wasn't comfortable. Kept it under 25 pounds, didn't have a problem with it. So there you go. Keep it, you know, keep it ultra light and you're fine. Other than that, I don't really have a problem. I don't really have a complaint with it. It's a good solid pack. I've been through some hell, and it still looks good, and nothing's tearing up, nothing's come off of it yet. So we'll see how it goes on the rest of the trail. I'm planning on staying with it, at least for now. Really, that's all I've got today. I try to keep it short. It's very hard for me to keep it short. It's very hard for me to keep it organized. I'm not an organized person. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave those below, and I'll try to answer anything I can. And stay tuned. I'm getting ready to get back out there pretty soon, guys. I'm really stoked, and I'm getting ready to get my trail legs back, or at least start trying to get back in shape again. So I've been lazy since I've been home.